welcome back to Agritecture's travel-free digital conference series. I'm Brianna Zagami, and I'm Agritecture's media strategist. And today I'm joined with Dan Nelson, the co-founder and CEO of Grow Computer. Hi, Dan. How are you?
Good. How are you? Thank you so much for having me. It's exciting to participate in another Agritecture conference.
Yeah, it's always good to have you on board. So I have a few burning questions before you get started.
Okay.
Curious to know, what is your quarantine snack and drink of choice?
Ooh, my quarantine snack. I've been eating a lot of dark chocolate recently. Just like I have like a couple chocolate bars that I got, and between dark chocolate and like kettle corn, those are the two things I could see at my desk right now. And then my drink of choice, when I'm not pounding some sort of alcohol because of the stress that's going on and everywhere, probably I just go through a lot of water. So I even have like a Brita filter down here in my basement, and this is my office. So for me, working from home is pretty normal. So it's not too much of a difference until we adjust to just a little bit more.
That's good. So the adjustment period has been pretty natural for you.
Yeah, it's just different having my wife home. And so once we were able to figure out kind of whose area is where, it's been pretty seamless at that point.
Great. Well, I'll let you get started.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much for having me. I hope everyone, can you see my screen? I assume that's a yes.
That's a yes.
I am Dan Nelson. You could find me at Daniel L. Nelson anywhere online. But I am the co-founder and CEO of Grow Computer. And it's really exciting to participate in another Agritecture conference. Our company has such a long history of being a part of everything that the Agritecture brand and team has built. So it's really exciting to participate in another event, especially when I don't have to travel anywhere for it. Just to kick it off, I'm excited to introduce a little bit more about what we're working on here at Grow Computer. I'm going to keep it pretty high level and theoretical, and then if we want to get into the product, I'd love to get into it a bit more later. But really introducing the why of what we're here for and what we're doing. And I think our first way to start is that fundamentally everybody on our team believes that humanity's ability to grow food indoors is fundamentally important. Now is more than ever with local resiliency. And, I think back to a conversation I had a few weeks ago where someone said to me, just imagine if China was a net exporter of food and they went into lockdown for the last 3 months. Would the world starve? And local resiliency and building food indoors in these controlled environments is going to be fundamentally important. And what we're doing at Grow Computer is we say that we've built the IoT operating system that will power this transformation. And when we look at traditional agriculture, we just see it getting more expensive, whether it's billion-dollar climate disasters, of which 2019 had more than ever before. I think the number is 19. Fires, hail, floods, storms, hurricanes. You could look at that. You could look at outbreaks of disease and E. coli bacteria on romaine lettuce that was farmed outdoors. You could look at soil health degradation or locusts, which is happening in East Africa. And as we look at all of these trends and so many more, traditional farming just seems to be getting more expensive and more risky. And we see here in New York exciting innovations happening in AgTech every day. Within 20 miles of where you and I are sitting, we have all of these companies. And in fact, more money has been raised here for these advanced AgTech companies, farms, and more than almost anywhere else on the planet. And so when we look at all these trends together, we see that there's an intersection of where traditional agriculture and controlled environment agriculture are going to meet. And as these things meet and the cost per crop harvested starts to drop for controlled agriculture, that the world is going to fundamentally change. And right now, it's not just lettuce. When we look at what's available to be grown today, right now in 2020, we see things like lettuces, strawberries, flowers, mushrooms, obviously cannabis, but there's also aquariums and insects. But as we start to take that idea and talk to more and more growers around the world, we see that new crops and opportunities are going to start to come on to be profitable. whether it's growing chickens or bananas and avocados. Eventually, if these current trends continue, it might actually be cheaper and more efficient for anybody to grow these foods indoors. And when you look at the trillions of dollars of market size, if any one person can help create a local market with a local product, there's an opportunity there to create a really interesting business. And as we look at where we are, we see something missing in what's being talked about around the world. We follow this stuff religiously. Obviously, we follow a lot of the resources that agritecture has provided, but we see that either whether you're an investor, you're a high-tech farmer, you're a retailer, or you're a market analyst, that something is missing. And ironically enough, of all of the places that seem to have identified it, we think it was MIT OpenAg. Obviously, the last year has not been the best press for them, but our history is very tightly linked to some of the theses that they started to create there. And we think we're really taking the mantle on that. And the reason why is that of everybody else, MIT OpenAg really realized it was about the people. And we're going to call them growers. In fact, I don't have a better way to put it. But when we look at what's going on in the world and the people that we know, we see people all over the world that are experimenting with new ways of controlled environment agriculture. Whether you're an entrepreneur trying to build a new local farm, you're an enthusiast growing anything at home, even a teacher using hydroponics in classrooms. This is happening all over the world, and it's happening fast. In fact, in Reddit, we've looked at a lot of these communities, and these communities are growing at almost 70 or 80% every year, with new subscribers subscribing to places like homesteading, vertical farming, or even microgrowery to grow other types of stuff. And when we look at our story, it starts with me. I am the least likely person to be talking about this because I am a recovering accountant. I'm a CPA and accountant by trade. And my story starts in 2016 when I was going on my honeymoon. And there I had a small balcony garden. And my question was, how do I keep my garden alive for 17 days while I'm on my honeymoon? And I spent months researching this and figuring it out. What you see is I even built an irrigation system on my balcony. But ultimately, the question was, where was the app for that? Right? Where was the ability to control and track these things on my phone, no matter where I was? And that fundamental question led me down an odyssey. And so from the summer of 2016, with my balcony garden, I built my first grow box, which my wife called the little box of horrors for obvious reasons. From there, I even worked on this idea of a container farm called the Go Farm. That didn't work. And in the winter of 2016, I had the chance to participate in an agritecture workshop up in Boston. And that was one of the best experiences that I've had in the space. In fact, I met a lot of friends that I'm still friendly with. Ricky from AgTech X, who's now on the agritecture team, and I met there. And a bunch of the other folks that are in the New York scene, I got a chance to meet them for the first time there. And when I came back, I started working on the MIT Food Computer Project. Myself and a couple other folks started building this thing out. And we realized that while the thesis was great, the hardware was a disaster. And so after that team exploded, which is its own story, I ended up moving the personal food computer into AgTech X. So when AgTech X opened in, I think, May 1st or June 1st of 2017, we were there from day zero. And I had this food computer that didn't work. And it was just a really cool looking thing that everyone had heard about. And over that time, I even got an opportunity to participate in the 2017 AgTech Week. And my topic was the state of the at-home hydroponics market. And from that, we actually founded the V1 of Grow Computer. I met my co-founder because I asked him to send me a prototype so I could show it off at AgTech Week. And in 2017 and 2018, we had our first iteration of what we thought it would be. Some agritecture folks might have heard of the growth strip. We had a little bit of coverage back then. But really, at the beginning of last year, we pivoted into this new model, this V2 idea. And now as we start to explain what we're doing, I just got to back it up a little bit and just start talking about the situation as we see it. So as I mentioned, there are growers all over the world, and growers build things that we call grows. Unfortunately, we don't have better wording for this because it's purposefully vague. And when we look at grows around the world, they're all unique. Every single system that's built by somebody is totally unique to itself, but it's also actually the same. And as we started to talk to all of these folks, one of the big questions was, why don't we have better digital tools? Why can't I easily remote track everything going on? Why can't I control it? Um, what if I could share a recipe or data from system to system, even if those systems weren't exactly the same? And that question became the ethos of what we're building at Grow Computer. And the reason why this is so challenging is actually really unique in itself. And the way that we'll put it is that each grow is a controlled environment system that manages the same set of X number of functions. In this case, we're going to use some icons to represent the different functions, whether it's humidity, light, temperature, energy, pH and water chemistry, or even images. And the challenges with these systems from grows built by growers is that the components that are chosen don't talk to each other. And that's because each of these individual hardware manufacturers doesn't really think like that. And it's a real huge many-to-many question. And because things don't talk to each other, every single setup is unfortunately unique, and thus there's no interoperability. And so our thesis at Grow Computer is, what if we could talk to anything? What could we unlock? And so instead of making all of these different components have to talk to each other, what if we could just be the central place and have all of them talk to us? And there's a metaphor that I love, but it goes all the way back to the 80s. And so in the 1980s, in the first PC revolution, you saw all of these hardware manufacturers, whether it's Hewlett Packard, Sony, IBM, Compaq, and Dell, that are building the same machines. They're building the same PCs, but they're all configured totally differently with different components. And so because of that, how does a software like Adobe or even Excel or Netscape translate to each of those different machines? If you had made Netscape code specific instances for all of that hardware, it never would have gotten off the ground because it's incredibly complex. And so actually the answer back then was Microsoft Windows. And as we look at what we're doing for IoT, we see a similar opportunity that exists today to talk to all of these components and open up the digital functionality to anybody that's grown. And why it's really cool today is that IoT is growing like crazy. Right now, these projections, which are a little dated, say it's going to be worth $1.5 trillion in the next couple years. And actually, the biggest opportunity is not in the devices themselves, but it's in the software and the platforms that connect everything together. And you could see that today, right? If we want to go to Amazon, all of the components that you would need, whether it's a camera, an air sensor, a water sensor, HVAC, fans, soil sensors, anything, it's all available because the hardware has been commoditized. And so what we're trying to do at Grow Computer is to allow anybody to take any configuration of these devices and create a digital platform to monitor, control, and manage their systems. And so as I mentioned, our first iteration of Grow Computer was called the Grow Strip. And the idea, which I have right here, was this power strip that would act as a central gateway that can connect all of your electrical circuitry and all of your sensors into one place. And through this one place, we can get to a central digital dashboard. Well, we tried to do an Indiegogo campaign, and ultimately, we failed. It didn't work. There's a lot of business reasons why that wasn't the right product. But now, as we look into 2020, we can create a quote unquote bundle of devices that are already available and network them together such that we can get anybody to anywhere we want to go. And so this is our 0 to 1, where before this, everything is kind of disjointed and disconnected. And we think these bundles can act as a central place to connect. But what's really exciting about what we're trying to do is that once we connect for the first time, system. We want to allow anybody to customize these systems with any devices, and such that if you and I are both doing the same type of strawberry grow, we don't necessarily have the same pumps or lights or cameras or HVAC, but the system should still work together. And so what we allow is, after that bundle, is to allow growers to choose any components they want, whether they're really expensive greenhouse sensors or just little tiles that you could buy on Amazon that are Bluetooth into a system. What's important for us is to connect those functions. And once we can do that, which we can do, now any configuration of these grows is now communicating in the same language. So now, irregardless of what your configuration is, we can now have you communicate on the key data points or the plant data or even the energy data, and now share information, apps, and data back and forth between any system. And so if we can do that, what we actually think we're creating is almost this internet of grows, where one system in New York, perhaps, could talk to another system in Nigeria or the Netherlands or China or anywhere else on the planet. But because they're communicating in that same language, these systems are now able to share data, applications, and so much more. And what would we like to ask people is, what would you wish you could do digitally on your phone that we kind of take for granted in every other aspect of our life, versus what we are doing now, where it's kind of analog? And if you're not in the room, you don't always know what's happening. So some things that we're really excited about are energy optimization algorithms, where you can connect your system to your energy utility and understand how much energy you're taking at a given time. Or maybe even have a machine learning algorithm that could sit on your video feed and notify you if they see some indication of pests or nutrient deficiencies. And now that function becomes an app that could travel to any one of these systems. Other ideas we've heard are grow doctors, right? So one person, one agronomist, can manage multiple systems from anywhere in the world and be able to save themselves the operational time of actually having to go to these places. Even in New York City, we hear about this, where one organization might manage 5 different systems in numerous areas. That organization still needs to pay somebody to get on the subway and go spot to spot. If you could have better controls and monitoring, you might be able to save a tremendous amount of time just by opening up your app wherever you are in the world. As I started to get into it, what if you can coordinate energy consumption and arbitrage out energy spikes? And such that with vertical farming, one of the largest costs in this whole process is in energy. But if we're doing it all indoors, and it's a relative 24-hour cycle where the plants don't necessarily need to know if it's 4 a.m. or 4 p.m., how can we coordinate multiple of these systems together and be able to start to work with the grid better and arbitrage out energy opportunities? And when we look at everything else going on out there, nobody else is doing this. There's so much great innovation, but it seems like a lot of them are siloed. And so when we look at landscapes like this in 2019, where we see ourselves, well, obviously because we're not on here, but we don't even fit into any of these buckets. In fact, where we see ourselves is in the white space between all of them. And if we're successful, we're going to be able to connect these hardware to the software, to the growers and farmers that are actually doing this, to give them better controls and really unlock some of the potential of computing power. And this isn't theoretical. Our first customers are representative of these growers around the country and around the world that have been excited to be able to get this technology in their hands. Whether you're a production vertical farm in New Jersey, or a classroom in California, or even a micro farm in the basement of an apartment building here in Brooklyn, there's a lot of different people that are approaching this challenge with their own unique ideas. And what we're trying to do is to give them the power of digital tools for any of these systems. And it's really exciting because this is just the tip of the beginning for us. These are the people that we understand, that we've been working with for years as we've been going through our iterative iterative process. But around the world, we've heard of exciting new ideas from people all over the place. And frankly, we haven't done much marketing. We've only spent $5,000 of total paid marketing over the life of our company. And we've heard from over 23 or 24 countries already. And it's because this local resiliency and local growing is a real global trend. It's happening. Growers are experimenting with this. But as we look at the available technology, nothing else is really digital and accessible and affordable. And so as we look at reaching and rolling out, where we are now is we're just getting started. We've been doing this as Grow Computer since 2017, but the way our team is built, we're totally founder owned and bootstrapped. So speed is something that we don't have the most luxury of accelerating as fast as we can, but kind of like the tortoise and the hare, we're still moving and we're still going. And now that we're live, we're excited to reach out. And so we're about to embark on what we're calling our alpha. And we're thinking that by the end of April, we'll have about 10 different systems of the ones that we started to show up and running on our platform. From there, we're looking to expand it to a beta. If the world didn't explode since I made this slide, we were hoping to have a market-ready bundle that, like I mentioned earlier, would be around $300 that anybody can buy and get their system from 0 to 1. From there, the possibilities are endless. We have enough opportunities and ideas that we've just been a part of the conversation with for a long time. And as we look at where we're going, our team is our team. We're still showing up. We're still working. There's 5 of us, and we are totally founder owned. We represent everything that we're trying to get. And what's really exciting about everybody on the team, tying it back as we're closing up, is everyone came through the AgriTecture network. I met David because he was an engineer that walked into AgTech X to help with the Open Ag project. Monty was the first person to email info@growcomputer.com, and he lived in Brooklyn because he followed Henry on Twitter. Henry introduced me to Andrew, and we met Colleen at an AgriTecture marketing event. And so it's really kind of special for us to be able to continue to participate. Brianna, as you know, I call myself a groupie because it has really given us and the company everything else that we've been able to build to this point. And we're excited to continue to work with everyone else going forward. And that's really the quick story. I know I didn't have too much time. I think I went a little long, but I hope you don't mind. And as we wrap up, if anyone wants to reach out to me, we're available anywhere, growcomputer.com, @growcomputer everywhere. And you can reach me directly at dan@growcomputer.com if you want to talk some more about this stuff.
Well, thank you, Dan. We greatly appreciate our agriculture groupies, and it's really exciting to hear about how the agriculture community has brought all these people together. It's definitely something that we strive for, not only in New York, but around the world. And also just really exciting to hear from you about all the opportunities for the future of AgTech. And as a hobby grower, I've been away from my home garden for over 2 weeks now. And I'm curious, how can someone like me use Grow Computer? Can you show me how it works?
Yeah, absolutely. So what we're trying to productize is the ability to send you just a basket of stuff. I don't know if you could see it. I have all of the stuff in my home office / warehouse, but I'll give you a run through my grow. And so my system is up and running, and I can show you a quick photo of what it looks like. And this is about 20 feet off to the left over here, and it's also one of our R&D labs. And what I have is I have 2 different grows. I have the big tent and the small tent, and I'm growing 2 different crops. And what I've been doing is I'm able to track and monitor all of these different systems in our platform. And so what I'm looking at in our dashboard is, all of the relevant readings from our 2 different company partners. So as we're looking at what products we work with right now, we have a subset of about 10 to 12 different components, but we have a roadmap of dozens and dozens more. And one of the things that we're excited about with our early partners is what components do people want to use? the things that we found that really are great is electricity. We can control electricity and track the voltage on a circuit by circuit level pretty well. Takes a second to pop up. But now I can look at all of the different components that are on, how much energy they're drawing, and these components are available on Amazon. And so what we're putting together is that bundle idea that will be one of our grow hubs, which this is our edge computer that runs everything locally, because we've realized that internet isn't always as reliable as we'd like it in certain spots. So we use that component to kind of run everything locally. Then we have an assortment of cameras. We have an assortment of other sensors that we can include. And every day we're adding more. And so as we look at this massive dashboard, I could show you what's going on real time anywhere in the world. My camera seems to have slipped, but this is my pepper grow. So I have 4 new peppers that are growing. I'm able to track and analyze all of the hourly and daily readings. Once again, a little buggy on the UI UX a bit, but basically I'm able to track these things live and locally and get alerts off of them. Eventually, we're going to build in much more control and automation features where, for example, turn things on and off, automate them. If we want to do a daily cycle or an interval cycle, we can create new ways to automate it off of temperature. So if temperature is too high, turn on your cooler. If it's too humid, turn on your dehumidifier. And so much more as we get more through this. Additionally, I see what's going on in my other grow. I'm not going to say it out loud because I know that it's a little bit taboo right now, but I'm able to track this plant live as well and see what the energy consumption is. And while the UI UX might not be as crisp as we want it to, all of the data is being tracked by time, with images, with the sensor data, with what's on and off. And we're figuring out new ways to present that information. I think in the next couple weeks, we're actually building out this 3D model. And so what we're going to want to be able to do is know which plant is in which slot. And so, for example, with these 4 pepper plants, I have a track on where we're tracking it with QR codes, what seed is in each of those different buckets. And then we're going to be able to know what is in each zone. And so over the life of the plant, we're starting to connect the plant genetics with the grow environment, and then hopefully some more of the phenotypical results of that, and start to see what happens. And so we're just excited to get it out. It's, we're very much a startup, but the technology of what we've built, we've been doing this for 3 years. We haven't heard anybody else that's even approaching a lot of these different features that we're getting to. While there's a lot of the functions of what we're doing are not necessarily too new and unique, the cost that we're able to do it for, like I said, the bundle, we're trying to get it to market for $300 at the lowest level, because we realize accessibility and the ability to invest thousands of dollars in hardware and capital is not really for everybody. And also, it doesn't necessarily make the most sense. And so for us, we are a software company, and we're using the hardware as the vehicle to get there.
Thank you so much for sharing that.
Yeah.
And I think I have time for one more question.
Cool. Okay.
So you talk about your journey throughout, the AgTech world and some of the hardships and even failures that you faced. And I'm curious, what advice do you have to other entrepreneurs for that moment where they're at their lowest of lows and facing that hardship? Anything that you can share to keep them inspired and moving forward?
Yeah, absolutely. So this is not my first startup. I had another startup in the past that didn't necessarily go as well as I would have liked. But through all this experience, there's kind of 3 things that stick out. The first one is only control what you can control. I think right now, there's so much going on around the world that have blown people's lives apart. And it's really hard. But if you start to worry about the results and not what you can do, you're going to drive yourself nuts. So rather than think about what the output is, think about what you're able to do on the input. If you don't like the results that you're getting, send more emails, do more work, the things that you can control. The second thing is it's all about the team. I would not be able to be here talking to you if I didn't have the team support it, like here in the foxhole with me at all times. Everyone cares deeply about what we're building, and it's really an us. And so it's really exciting because as hard as someone works, everyone else sees it, and it makes everyone motivated to work more and harder. And so make sure you're surrounding yourself with good people. And then for anybody getting into ag tech or this world, what helped me was two things, which was just try to grow something, whether it's a flower, an indoor plant, anything. Just try to grow it and get exposed to plants. I know as a city boy, that's easier said than done. And then the next thing is have a thesis. When you're talking to people, I went to numerous conferences and events. Have a thesis of an idea. It doesn't have to be right, but my thesis of why can't I control this with an app was really what led me through all these conversations, because as you talk to somebody about it, they say, yeah, I wish I had that, or no, that's a terrible idea. And it guided us. So, what we built was not an inside out thing, it was kind of an outside in, where we were able to listen to what everyone else was saying to our theses and react and make sure that the product that we're building worked for all of these different people. And as we talk to our customers and listen to what they're saying, everyone's super excited about it. And so that was really, really helpful in getting through all of this stuff as well.
I think that's really valuable feedback for everyone to kind of take in right now. We're at a point where there's so much uncertainty and so much out of our control. So only focusing on the things that we can control, and also just the team component, really realizing now like who your supporters are in times of crisis, and having those people around you is really helpful. So
Right.
it's good.
Yeah, and like if you're part of the team, show up, just participate. In this well, everyone's around. Like if you could just join a web call and just be part of it, it really helps. Even if you don't know exactly where you're going, there's a lot of opportunity, and there's a lot of great teams and people out there that always need help. And so, we, as I say, when people ask you, "Oh, what do you need?" We need everything. And so, we just brought on a team of college students that I met when I was back at my alma mater a couple months ago that are going to help us do some really exciting research around hydroponics in classrooms, which is really exciting to them, and how educators are using this technology to teach biology and science and STEM and all sorts of and nutrition and everything else. And if you're motivated and passionate about it and you reach out, there's no reason why folks wouldn't just appreciate to have smart people that care helping out.
That's very true. Everybody has a different skill that can be borrowed and shared. So this is a time more than ever to be sharing our knowledge and skill sets.
And especially as we're physically distant, that doesn't mean you have to be socially distant, right? And to be part of something while
Find
we're
a
all
webinar,
remote.
find an online chat room. There's definitely
Yeah.
ways you can stay involved and keep, staying inspired and moving forward.
Yeah, like I said, I met my original co-founder from the Open Ag Forum. We just started talking to each other because we had this idea, and that idea turned into a conversation, and the conversation turned into a company. And so it now is the perfect time because everyone's got all of it. There's not as much confliction where everyone's got a dinner or a trip or something else, and everyone's
Those
kind of
distractions. So you guys heard it
yes,
here. Get out there,
yeah.
get ideas out there, have those conversations, and create something amazing like Grow Computer.
Absolutely. Yeah, I mean, thank you so much for having me. It's always a pleasure and an honor to be asked to talk more about what we're building. I'm super excited about it. Our team is super excited about it, and we think that on the other side of this, as everything starts to settle, we're really well positioned to do some amazing, amazing things in the coming years. So, I hope anyone that's following this, that's listened and has watched, can follow along and reach out. And so we hope to continue some cool stuff going forward.
And Dan, before you sign off, can you just tell everyone where they can continue to follow Grow Computer and your journey, any social media platforms?
Absolutely.
Where can we follow what you guys are doing?
Yes. So we are available. One of the reasons why we love the name Grow Computer is because we have all of it. So at Grow Computer, Instagram, Twitter. We're not as active on marketing because we're still figuring out what we want to talk about. But we're around. You could find me on LinkedIn or Google or whatever. And yeah, I think just reach out, dan@growcomputer.com, if anyone has any questions or ideas or fun things that you're thinking about. The last thing I'll say is anyone that's made it to this point and you're growing, think about what you wish your ideal dashboard could do. If you could control everything from your phone, what would it do? And that inspiration has led us through some amazing ideas. And I hope to hear from everybody else with those fun thoughts.
All right. Until next
Awesome.
time. Bye, Dan.
Thank you.